President Buhari received special envoy from Zambia, pledges more collaboration with that country.
Governor Aminu Masari of Katsina State warns against politicizing the issue of security.
In this country is ours, all of us. We have a role to play. And we must play it for the sake of the country and for the sake of our children and grandchildren.
And Lagos digital switchover takes off.
But the fact that we are here in Lagos today is a testimony to our residents and determination to ensure the success of the transition from analog to digital television.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss vaccines and health interventions.
Experience, they say, is the best teacher, isn't it? So let's start our conversation this morning by reliving the experiences of one Benjamin Franklin as far back as 1736. Now, frustrated by the death of his 4-year-old son from smallpox, Franklin busted out, and I quote, "I long regretted bitterly and still regret that I had not given it to him by inoculation."
Well, Claire, the incident you just narrated refers to the rejection and denial of smallpox vaccination in the 18th century. At the time, it was said that Franklin's son died as a result of the inoculation, but his father then came out with a denial and even went on to lead and campaign for parents to actually vaccinate their children against diseases. And we, of course, can relate that to our own experience here in Nigeria with regard to the polio vaccination, where many children came down with the wild polio virus.
Of course, Kingsley, that also was as a result of rejection of the vaccine. But like Benjamin, it was reported that one Adamu Misa, who chased health workers away from his home in northern Nigeria, later became a vaccine advocate after his own 8-year-old son also allegedly went to bed one night healthy and strong, but only to wake up in the morning losing his ability to walk.
In fact, Claire, that incident was widely reported sometime in 2019, I believe. Now, the man in question, Adamu, was also reported to have said during his subsequent child vaccination campaigns that, "I have seen it on my child, so anybody who says anything against vaccination, I'll show him practical example with my child."
All right, so it is not just with polio. The same rejection of vaccine as the best intervention in healthcare is also resonating with COVID-19. And I can assure you that there are many people all over the world, not just here in Nigeria, that are skeptical about taking the vaccine. But just as Jeffrey Kluger and Alex Azza says, vaccines are safe, effective, and life-saving, but fear endangers them. Now, it's a very simple message that parents and indeed everyone need to keep hearing. And that is the prompt for our conversation today on Good Morning Nigeria. I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak.
Well, rejection of vaccination is certainly not peculiar to Nigeria. Now, there are many unfounded beliefs surrounding vaccination going around, especially with regard to COVID-19. According to the World Health Organization, opposition to vaccines is currently a global challenge. For instance, in parts of Europe and the US, and Japan, India, and Pakistan, there are instances of rejection still of measles vaccination and the human papilloma virus vaccine. So, how relevant is vaccination as an intervention in healthcare? I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
And Good Morning Nigeria is broadcast right from our studios here in Abuja live. Our complimentary segment that's talking about business news, newspaper review, and others will follow in the course of the program. But for now, let's join our colleague Dennis Adegunloye for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Dennis. Have you taken your jab?
My jab, it's still on its way. I'll get to that at some point. Good morning, Claire, and good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria is committed to deepening and expanding collaboration with Zambia in the greater interest of their people and economies. The president stated this while receiving a special envoy of his Zambian counterpart, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. He said Nigeria and Zambia stand to benefit from each other if further areas of collaboration are in critical economic sectors. The president explained that doing so will also impact positively on the African continent. The special envoy, Joseph Malanji, who is Zambia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, thanked Nigeria for her big brother role in ECOWAS and the African continent. He said whenever the strong strengthens the weak, equity is exemplified. The envoy told President Buhari that the Zambian leader is desirous of stronger bilateral relations with Nigeria as well as greater impetus for the Joint Commission of Cooperation between the two countries. President Buhari also granted audience to the second Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, Madame Hadira Acheta Sise. Details of their discussions were, however, not made public. Nigeria is prioritizing innovation and technology investments in agriculture so as to transform the sector by attracting young people and also scale up productivity. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this in his remarks delivered virtually at the 2021 High-Level Dialogue on Feeding Africa.
Part of the plan also is the establishment of about 142 privately owned agro-processing service centers, which will also be established to address post-harvest losses, path to market and supply chain challenges, and train about 100,000 new extension agents to address farmer advisory service delivery challenges with new technology and practice adoption.
President Muhammadu Buhari expresses his condolences to the families of citizens who lost their loved ones in the recent spate of killings in Benue State. Furthermore, he states that the rising levels of incidents, especially the killings and violence in various parts of the country, call for further collaboration with security agencies to curb reoccurrences. According to Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, the President also states his disappointment and sadness to hear Benue State Governor Samuel Otom make a litany of accusations against him and his government following the recent unfortunate incidents in the state, as no responsible government takes pleasure in such events as the killing of the military and innocent citizens taking refuge in IDP camps. Garba Shehu added that while the presidents will continue to keep security, police, and the armed forces on their toes to be on the top of their game in troubled parts of the country, the situation in the states will greatly be helped by everyone working together because that is the foundation on which progress and prosperity can be achieved. Meanwhile, Governor Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State has spoken against suggestions that a state of emergency be declared on the security sector across Nigeria, saying the desired result will not be achieved with the prevailing circumstances. Speaking to State House correspondents after an audience with the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, the governor warned against politicizing the issue of security in the country.
In this country is ours, all of us. We have a role to play. And we must play it for the sake of the country and for the sake of our children and grandchildren, not for the sake of the persons that are in office. I think we have to understand that whatever we do to restore security today, we are not doing it for one particular person or group of persons. If you say, okay, state of emergency, what do? We are having the same people, the same security agencies, the same capacities, and the same resources.
And improving security of workers, their families and public institutions in the face of rising insecurity were issues of concern at the National Peace Summit organized by the Nigeria Labour Congress to commemorate 2021 Workers' Day. There were also concerted efforts to interrogate all indices responsible for the spate of insecurity in the country.
Our armed forces are capable of bringing this insurgency to an end if they are better armed, equipped, and modern technology and adequate motivation is deployed.
Nigeria, since 1999, is being run as a unitary government.
I'm advising my own people, please, if you have been sleeping 5 hours in a night, cut it down to 2 or 3 hours. Let us try to mask this unknown government.
Answer the clarion call to come together as a people and defeat this common enemy of the country that is assuming a frightening dimension. Injury to one, injury to all.
The federal government says it is optimistic that by December 2022, television broadcasting in the country would have migrated to the ongoing digital platform. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed announced this at the formal digital switch on of Lagos State.
Indeed, it is. But the fact that we are here in Lagos today is a testimony to our resilience and determination to ensure the success of the transition from analog to digital television across the country. I would like to say well done, but let us remember that we are not yet there. We have, however, shown the capacity. We have, however, shown that we have the capacity to go all the way. And going all the way requires synergy.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has confirmed 62 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. In the latest figures released by the center, Lagos recorded 38 new infections. Kaduna and Ondo states recorded 6 new cases each, while Ogun recorded 3 new cases. Others are the FCT, Akwa Ibom and Rivers states with 2 new infections each, while Edo, Kano, Oyo complete the day's tally with a single case each. Nigeria now has recorded a total of 165,055 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 155,041 have been treated and discharged. 2,063 persons have now died of the virus. Well, that concludes the morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues very shortly with Kingsley and Claire after this break. Good morning.
My name is Nancy Oyedia Orom. I'm AIT correspondent. I've been covering the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 the last 1 year. I just took the jab, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and it was seamless. And I was opportune to take these vaccines with the SGF, the ministers. So I want to use this medium as a journalist for someone who has experienced COVID in the last 1 year. I want to implore media houses, broadcast industries. Let's join hands together to propagate the good information out there for people to believe in these vaccines. That's the only way we can have health immunity and also achieve the projection and target of Nigeria come 2022. Well, I must implore all Nigerians to go out there, register on the Primary Healthcare Development Agency website. These vaccines are free for all Nigerians. Go to the website, register. It is free for you and I.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
He's falling sick so frequently, either fever or stomachache. I keep him away from junk food.
She also feeds me apples. She says an apple a day keeps...
If you want to keep germs away, then also wash your hands regularly with Dettol soap.
Meaning?
If it's a soap, why not Dettol soap? Germs and disease spread through the hand also. For this, use Dettol soap. Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
It's the dawn of a new era on NTA's flagship program, the Sports Parliament, revitalized with lots of varieties, including feedback responses from viewers. Sports Parliament, the weekly sports show that exposes all the intrigues in the Nigerian sports sector and projects an agenda on the way forward for Nigerian sports. On NTA every Thursday at 10:30 p.m., running for 1 whole hour, discussing sports. The parliamentarians are more committed than ever to enlighten the viewers as the Sports Parliament takes it to a whole new level on the floor of the House. Keep a date with the Sports Parliament as motions are moved every Thursday on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, with his gavel to harmonize sports resolutions. The House have it.
Central Bank of Nigeria approves immediate removal of all directors of First Bank PLC and FBN Holdings. Plus, financial regulatory authorities brainstorm on opportunities and risks of cryptocurrencies. Details of these on Business News with Comfort Amodu.
The Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption is holding conversations on the need to develop legal framework and policies to regulate cryptocurrency and other blockchain technology by considering the global trends, opportunities, and risks. Taking into account issues of consumer protection, tax evasion, money laundering, capital flight, and financing of terrorism via blockchain technology, stakeholders at the virtual meeting unanimously agreed that Nigeria has to develop a framework for proper adoption of virtual assets.
Citizens are using it. They are eking out a living. They are engaged. They are making money. And somehow they are contributing to the national economy. Therefore, we should pay attention because of that reason. And while it is being operated, we should pay attention so that we can know who is doing what with it, so much so that the government can get revenue.
The need for transparency, accountability, particularly in the conduct of public officers, as well as for politically exposed personalities, is something that requires serious checks and balance.
In another development, the Central Bank of Nigeria has approved the immediate removal of all directors of First Bank Limited and First Bank Holdings PLC, as well as the appointment of new directors. At a briefing in Abuja, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said the decision is informed by media reports that the Board of Directors of First Bank Limited, an important bank under regulatory forbearance regime, had effected sweeping changes in executive management without engaging or prior notice to the regulatory authorities. The Central Bank of Nigeria therefore approved the appointment of Remi Babalola and Tunde Hassan Odukale to chair First Bank Holdings Limited and First Bank Limited.
Given that the actions being taken by the CBN are meant to strengthen the bank and position it The CBN hereby reassures the depositors, creditors, and other stakeholders of the bank of its commitment to ensure the stability of the financial system.
All right, thank you, Comfort, for the business package. Coming up shortly will be our newspaper review. Stay with us.
Bayo Atoyebe, our newspaper reviewer, is here with us on the studios this morning. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning. Good morning, Claire.
It's Friday.
Yes. So
is there anything special about Friday?
Yes, because I always look forward to the 2 days of resting.
It's the best day
of Nigeria.
It's the best day for us.
Yes, it's the Eid of the week.
All right, so welcome, Bayo.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start off with the Punch. And it has its headline as Senate summons Minister Atairu on 199 billion naira anti-terror fund spending. It comes with two riders. National Assembly Committee Chairman berates Ahmed for shunning invitation, and soldiers lamenting lack of weapons to fight insurgents, alleges panel. All right, the picture stories you see there, distribution of relief materials by the National Emergency Management Agency to internally displaced persons in Gaydam, that's in Yobe State, and it happened yesterday, Thursday. Okay, let's look at other stories now. Fraud allegation, Secondus demands apology, 1 billion naira from ex-Oshomole's aid, it's on page 13. Embattled Niger communities negotiate with Boko Haram, 20 million naira levy agreed, it's on page 7. Again, embattled Niger communities negotiate with Boko Haram, 20 million naira levy agreed. And Bauchi suspends Islamic cleric indefinitely, alleges inciting sermons. It's on page 11. And Senate President, governors, VIPs, witness Saldana's eldest daughter's burial. That's on page 9. Let's look at what is trending just a little above the nameplate. First Bank directors fired to protect customers, minority shareholders. That's coming from the CBN. It's on page 20. NSA dismisses threats to airports. NSCDC fortifies internal security. And experts warn of looming danger as U.S. directs citizens to leave. That's India. It's on page 2. That's just the front page.
Okay. Nation newspaper. Nation newspaper. It's time for local government autonomy, says Jonathan. Mbaka slams political leaders over insecurity. How relatives and others exposed amputee hawker, and PDP seeks national conference on security. CBN sacks First Bank Chair Awoshika Tudeko and others. Adetuton back as MD CEO. NNPPC memo. Governors seek end to petrol subsidy. Federal government not moved by oil firms letter. And Labour awaits invitation for meeting. Buhari sad over attacks by Otom. We need cooperation, not antagonism. Fee hike, 75% Kaduna varsity students may drop out. Monday is public holiday. Bye.
Thank you, Kingsley. Let's start with the development from the People's Democratic Party. And have warned that 2023 general elections will not be realistic if the current security continues to deteriorate. At an emergency national executive meeting, Chairman Uche Secondus advised that the constitution of the National Security Conference for an all-embracing comprehensive deliberation on the future of the country. He says our country is grounded by insecurity when the Constitution in Section 14(2)(b) says that the welfare and security of citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. The party suggests that there should be a national conference on security to galvanize ideas and options to tackle insecurity in our country. Meanwhile, there are competing voices from the pulpit. There has been reaction from presidency about these voices too. While some are allegedly making negative prophecies, others are expressing optimism. The Catholic priest, Father Ejike Mbaka, now says God has asked him to withdraw his support for the president and to prophesy against him. In the same vein, the founder of Deeper Christian Life, Pastor Williams Kumuyi, says Nigeria will fly again despite the multifarious challenges confronting the nation at the moment. Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, says many clerics now should emulate Pastor Kumuyi. He says that, but for most reaction, the talk of doomsday encourage members to hate, and eventually it leads to negative tendencies and accentuate the killings in our nation. He says, do these other preachers read copies of the Holy Bible different from one of Kumuyi reads? And he asks, why don't they preach hope, but rather provoke members to hate? Additional quotes Kumuyi are saying that, stop hate, killing, and use of divisive utterances. He observed that even such divisive utterances have permeated radio, television, social media, and all these tend to boil over and lead to wanton killings. So, and in the area of security, there have been some successes. But however, 4 secondary students of Kapru Secondary School in Ganarop, which is located very close to the Yakubu Gowon Airport, which is 60 kilometers from Jos Metropolis, had a hole drilled through its rear fence and 4 students abducted. For the quick intervention of the security nearby, there could have been another incident of mass abduction. However, 3 of the students managed on their own to escape, and 1 student is now held in captivity. In another development, a drug trafficker with 900 grams of cocaine has been intercepted in a commercial bus traveling between Abuja and Gwagwalada. This thing is coming so close. Another was also nabbed at Zuba. He was carrying 200 grams of illicit drug. The NDLA committee head for FCT, Mohammed Sokoto, says that one of them was intending to travel to Libya through Kano and Agadez, and that is the route. In Lagos, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police says that they have arrested 135 armed traffic robbers as well as 18 cultists in the command. Commissioner of Police Hakeem Odumosu says that in the period, they arrested 42 traffic robbers. That is people who rob persons during traffic, 93 armed robbers, 18 cultists, and command also foiled 2 attacks on police stations. He says that the command has foiled 54 armed robbery attempts in the country. 4 robbery suspects were killed in gun duel with the police, and 93 armed robbers have been arrested. Also in Bayelsa, the police command there has arrested a 28-year-old man who specializes in founding, fabricating, and selling locally made guns to cultists and armed robbers. The commissioner of police there, Mike Okoli, has called for public support to detect some of these issues. Also, the Department of State Services says that the proscribed IPOB has acquired bombs and explosives for Eastern Security Network, and it is to be moved to Imo State for the purpose of destabilization. The DSS wrote this in a letter to the brigade commander of the 34 Artillery Brigade. They are saying that these newly acquired bombs and explosives are to be moved in articulated trucks, and they are heading from Lagos to a hideout in Olo in Imo State. So one begins to wonder, if the DSS is aware of this, why don't they try on their own to track and monitor it, rather than write to the brigade commander that this is the danger coming all through along the highway? The other matter of concern is that a senator in the Federal Republic of Nigeria says he was attacked twice. First, along Okene-Lokoja Road. When he escaped that, he faced another attack between Lokoja and Abaji. In the process, 3 policemen in his convoy were shot at, one of them critically injured. The other 2 suffered minor injuries. He said he escaped dead by whiskers. And he said that the security situation is now very serious, and therefore the federal government to immediately take moves and measures to restructure the security architecture in the country. When the senator is talking about the federal government, is he aware that he, as a senator of the Federal Republic, is part of the government? The government is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The tendency is that we tend to say put everything at the doorstep of the executive. Since we have been having all these security challenges, what legislative measures have the National Assembly and state assemblies put in place? What measures have been put in place by the judiciary for speedy trial of people that have been arrested? You remember Evans, Wamadike, he's been arrested since 2017. He's still there. You remember Wadume, he was arrested from Taraba. He's still there, it's going on. We will recall that in this country, when armed robbery became very rampant, everybody rose to the occasion. Tribunals were set up, the judiciary initiated that, and there was speedy trial to try and at least tackle that. What legislation is that?
NTA, you can't be Deutsch.
Volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
At the first sign of pain, you need a solution that you can trust to provide effective relief and is gentle on the stomach. Try Panadol Caplets for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Caplets. This has been Medifact for Panadol.
He's falling sick so frequently, either fever or stomachache. I keep him away from junk food.
He also feeds me apples. She says an apple a day keeps.
If you want to keep germs away, then also wash your hands regularly with Dettol soap.
Meaning?
If it's a soap, why not Dettol soap? Germs and disease spread through the hand also. For this, use Dettol soap. Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
You won't go shake your body. Instead, they make it calm down. It a fun say sabi. You want to grow 6 packs in a day. I beg you not to pass your power. You want to show yourself, oh.
Whatever your size, find it with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# now to get the plan that suits you. Airtel, the smartphone network.
My name is Dr. Faisal Shuaib. I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Earlier today, I took my first shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Despite all of the delays, all of the doubts, here we are, Nigerians can finally access the vaccines. I hope that Nigerians will come out and get these vaccines because these vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they truly work. Over the course of the next few weeks, we have to continue wearing face masks. We have to do social distancing. But I know eventually, once we're able to get herd immunity, then we'll be able to stop all of these non-pharmaceutical interventions. To get the vaccination, you should go to the NPPC website. There's a link on there that you click and you can register and schedule exactly where you want to get your vaccine.
Life is a game. We are cool. We are trendy. Energy moves us. Sports is our game, our oxygen. Because with the round leather, we ball. We hustle. All over the land, north and south, we are united in the positive glory. We are encapsulated by HIFL. We live for the game. It's game time. Showing on NTA Network.
Before we begin our conversation on vaccines and health interventions, let's listen to this background put together by Uche Ugochukwu.
The World Health Organization estimates that 2 to 3 million deaths are prevented annually through immunization. However, Nigeria is said to account for 30% of global unimmunized children aged 0 to 5 years, despite concerted efforts by stakeholders to reverse the trend. The coronavirus pandemic makes the situation more precarious, and the Health Organization is worried about a decline in successes achieved in the past years.
The WHO UNICEF estimate points to the fact that Nigeria, with all those investments, have been able to reduce the number of children unimmunized from 4.1 million to about 3.1 million just between 2017 to 2019. And this is really a significant feat. That notwithstanding, the 3.1 million is quite very high because it's the leading number in terms of unimmunized children globally.
People's attitude to vaccine in the face of COVID-19 is another issue of concern. Ibrahim and Iyabo are among the many not willing to take vaccines.
No go take. Nothing concern me with that one. I know they carry my children go there immunization because I don't like them.
The task before relevant bodies, as highlighted in the 2021 World Immunization Week with the theme, Vaccines Bring Us Closer, is to build vaccine trust, raise and maintain vaccine acceptance among persons like Ibrahim and Iyabo. With efforts to increase confidence in vaccine, there is hope that the nearly 20 million unimmunized children would be reached.
All right. Thank you, Uche Ugochukwu, for the background package. Now, let me start by asking you, have you taken your COVID-19 vaccine yet? Well, I hear it's been extended to between the 5th and 10th of May, depending on which state you are. But if you haven't, for one reason or the other, I advise you pay good attention to our conversation that's starting right now on vaccine and, of course, other health, medical interventions in health. Your fears may be unfounded. So let me get started by introducing our guest right here in the studio. First of all, Peter Hawkins is the UNICEF country representative in Nigeria. He joins us in the studio. Thank you very much for coming.
Good morning.
Also with us here in the studio is Dr. Basi Okpose, Director, Disease Control and Immunization, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Thank you very much, Dr. Okpose, for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Also, Dr. Kazeem Mustapha is Vice Chairman, Nigeria National Polio Plus Committee of the Rotary International. Dr. Mustapha, good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's begin with Dr. Basi Okpose. Just how important are vaccines in medical intervention?
Vaccines, when given, are meant to prevent and protect us against diseases. There are so many causes of diseases. Some of them have the vaccines and some don't have. And like the theme of this year, World Immunization Week, which says vaccine brings us closer in a way that we are closer to a healthier world, a healthier environment, a more productive world. We'll pick, for instance, the vaccines that are given to children. There are some of them that may not go to school if they didn't get vaccine. For instance, a child that comes down with polio, that child will not be able to go to school. Most of them don't go. Even when they go, they are limited. That child cannot play football. Imagine the likes of the J.J. Okocha that we have from Nigeria, the likes of the Mikel, Ahmed Musa. If they had polio, they will not be playing for Nigeria. So our children, when they are protected against polio, for instance, they are free to participate in school. Again, you look at the economic aspect of it. When people take vaccines, they stay healthy. They say health is wealth. It's productive to the environment. The man, the woman is not a burden to the family. The child is not a burden to the family. They are available at workplace. They are more productive. And then also, with this scenario, you discover that the finances, the limited finances that families have, are not diverted towards treatments, but used for other things because they stay healthy. So vaccines prevent us from having diseases. I know, like here in Nigeria, most people, when we are talking about the vaccines like the COVID-19 vaccine and the rest, they will be asking questions, why I don't know vaccines for things like malaria. Good news, even the malaria, there is a vaccine that's just been tested with 74% effectiveness. This will soon be rolled out, and you will see, even for us in Africa that we are talking about, oh, malaria is not allowing us to do this, that. We will take the vaccines, we'll stay safe even from the malaria. So as time goes on, there are more inventions, more vaccines are coming out for the diseases that we don't have vaccines now, and people stay healthier. Pick again, for instance, our women. Before, and it's still happening, there are a lot of our women that we have lost to cervical cancer. But with the availability of the HPV vaccine, a lot are being protected. Countries that started earlier, they are where the incidences are reducing because they have used vaccination. And our women are staying healthier and not being exposed to that. So we can't overemphasize the importance. And then I come closer home, what is happening now, the global pandemic, COVID-19 vaccine. Last year, remember, sometime last year, everywhere was locked globally. We couldn't go anywhere. Even in Nigeria, we were locked for months. Nobody could go out. With the IPC case and then the interventions from the vaccines are now available. US, they are using it. UK, they are using it. In Nigeria, we've started using it. And we could see with the use of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine in UK alone, after about 6 weeks, they had 94% reduction in hospitalization. People are moving out now, going for their normal business. It's because of the vaccine intervention in addition to other things they are doing. In Nigeria also, we are receiving our jab. It's unfortunate that at the beginning of it, a lot of people, before the vaccination started, people said a lot of things. If you take the vaccines, you will fall and die, you will become mad. To the glory of God, we have vaccinated close to 1.5. We have vaccinated almost 1.5 million Nigerians so far, with the 2 million doses available for them. Nobody has gone mad. There is no death link to it. It's just mild effects like the pains around the site and the rest of it. And people are more confident to go out to do their work, and this is what vaccine has contributed to us.
Our conversation on this issue will go beyond talks, Dr. Puse. Yes, so we're going to back it up, and so that people will understand. But let me take the conversation to Mr. Hawkins. Just what is the advantage of vaccine over other, therapeutic medical interventions?
Well, the vaccine, as Dr. Bassi said, has a distinctive ability to address the actual problem. So if you take the phenomenal success last year that Nigeria became wild polio free, that was as a result of a vaccine which started in 2003, 2002, and it's developed over time. They've used different vaccines to approach the disease in different ways. And then the ultimate success in 2020, Nigeria was wild polio free. I mean, that's a fantastic achievement. And that continues with measles, with other vaccines, and now we've got COVID-19 vaccine as well, the AstraZeneca here in Nigeria, that has been tested and tested and tested and continues to be tested as we talk. The international regulatory authorities have looked at the data, have said it is safe. The national authorities have looked at the data, NAFDAC, and declared it to be safe. So both in terms of its effectiveness and its safety, the two coming together means that vaccines are a very good way of addressing a particular problem, as we saw with polio in 2020.
But other medical interventions also have the same, qualities that you have mentioned. They are safe, they are effective. What is it about vaccine that gives it, optimal advantage? I don't know.
Well, it gets into the body, into the stream very quick, faster, yes, and is able to. You're able to develop the actual vaccine to take it forward much quicker. The malaria is a very, very good example. The fact that the malaria vaccine has been delayed as long as it has up until now is an indication that malaria is still a very big problem. Hopefully with this vaccine, it will start to address that problem in a rapid way.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Let's bring in now Dr. Mustapha. Dr. Mustapha, why still at the exploratory stage of our conversation, pathogens largely viral or bacterial, but tell us, why is it that it appears that a number of vaccines that we do get to hear about mostly target viral infections rather than bacterial infections? And what is it that people need to know about the distinctiveness between viral infections and bacterial infections and the vaccines that are targeted at them?
Well, thank you very much. I think I want to start by telling our viewers that we should always know that prevention is better than cure. And vaccines, interventions in healthcare is a form of, in fact, is preventive. So it will save you a whole lot of hazards that can come up with when you allow your system to be infected with the pathogen. So coming back to your question, vaccines, whether viral or bacteria, works in the same way. If you take vaccines, you have been able to introduce into the system a biological preparation that will stimulate your system naturally to be able to defend your body against any offending pathogen. So in terms of bacteria, vaccination against bacteria or vaccination against virus, the mode of activity of vaccines against both pathogens are basically the same. The only thing is all viruses are very, very funny in the sense that they mutate and replicate a lot. Just like in the case of COVID, we have different mutations. After we have celebrated the success of the vaccines, then the concerns started to arise about various strains of the vaccines, various strains of the virus. That is the only characteristics of virus compared to bacteria. But the good news again is that once you get the entire process of vaccine production against a particular pathogen and you are targeting a particular disease condition, even when they mutate, most of the time, the mutant, the new strains, are still very, very, the vaccines are still very, very effective against the new strains. So both vaccines against bacteria and vaccines against viruses works basically in the same way, and what they do is just to make sure that they prepare your system, they help your system to defend itself by making sure that they stimulate production of necessary antibodies and kind of simulate a disease condition that is not there for your natural defense system to take over the battle on your behalf. So vaccines generally are very safe, very effective, and honestly speaking, when people say they don't want to take vaccines, it's like choosing between exposing yourself to danger. It's much more beyond morbidity alone. Unlucky people could could die from the pathogen's effect. So I want to say emphatically, and I want to advise that please don't wait until you are killed by the pathogen. Don't wait until the quality of life you live is reduced by the pathogen. Please go ahead and take the vaccines. It is always much wiser to take the vaccine and avoid all the troubles than to wait until you regret later.
Okay, my question will still be directed to you, Dr. Mustapha, and maybe Dr. Oposan would also take it. You know, at the peak of the HIV and AIDS scourge in Nigeria, we had all sorts of, stories coming from practitioners in the healthcare, both orthodox and, traditional. And they tell us that, look, in fact, you heard people say, don't go for vaccines, that, the vaccines you inject into your system over time becomes active again, and one may come down with the same, disease for which the vaccine was introduced into the system. So on that premise, I'd like you to tell us, what are vaccines exactly? How are they, developed? From what are they developed?
Thank you very much. Well, the concern that you raised, he said it is very possible for it to happen, but it is also not common. And when it happens, the reasons for making that to happen are always very obvious. Vaccines are biological preparations, usually in suspension, which can be injected or can be given orally. And they are weakened pathogens, either virus or bacteria, or completely killed pathogens, which if introduced into your body cannot make you sick. In fact, I always laugh when I read all the conspiracy theories. Science development has gotten to a level that there's no way anybody can do 419 in it. And the transparency and the rigorous protocols and verification that goes with development of a vaccine is so much. So those pathogens in the vaccines are already killed or weakened. We call them attenuated, meaning they cannot harm you again in any way.
They cannot become active again?
Well, that is why there are people that are not allowed to be exposed to vaccines, even as good as they are. In cases of people with chronic ailment, especially people on cancer therapy, we know that most of the interventions, either chemo or radio in cancer treatment, can weaken, can affect people's immune system. So in people that are already very sick, you don't want to also introduce the vaccines because, when somebody's immunity is already down to almost zero, anything can happen. Then in case of, let's use polio for instance, where people whose immune system are already compromised in one way or the other, in terms of maybe a severely malnourished child and all those people, is just similar to what I've explained in adults with chronic ailment. So that is when occasionally you can have vaccines trying to. But the good thing is, even if that happens, the fact that your body is already simulated, is already prepared to fight, you cannot still, it will still not be as if you are just left there with zero response to the introduction of the pathogen. So, like I said, usually before vaccines are introduced, those people in the medical science research will tell you how rigorous and how extensive the trials are. There are 3 stages in the development of vaccines. When you start development of vaccines, after all the initial research and testing, you have to do rigorous testing in animals. And when you look at the physiology of animals, they are very close to that of the human body. So any result, any effect, the effect of vaccines on those animals, you can clearly extrapolate that is what the similar effect will be in human. It is after successful animal trials that you now go into 3 phases of clinical trial in human being. The first one being we involve very small groups of numbers of people, and then you try and see. And the whole idea of these different stages of trial is on safety, is on efficacy, how effective and how safe they are. It is after that first trial, if there is any failure of the first trial, definitely the vaccine development for that particular in that particular instance is dead on arrival. It is when you can ascertain the excellent outcome of the first trial that you go into the second clinical trial, which will now involve hundreds of people being closely monitored, including people that are not being exposed to the vaccines, who we, it's like you have situations where you introduce vaccines to some group of people, and then you are monitoring them side by side, people that are not introduced to the vaccines, to see, what difference you will get in their system. So it is the success of that will now lead to the final trials, which will expose the vaccine that is in development to a large population of people. Even be that as it may, when any new vaccine has passed the licensing, if it's been licensed, WHO still has the responsibility through their relevant committee, while in use, like these COVID vaccines, while in use, it is still being monitored regularly. The side effect is being monitored regularly to see that, yes, people's lives are not still exposed to danger. And that is why, please, I want to advise Nigerians, please stop circulating all those conspiracy theories, all those write-ups. I was shocked when somebody, after taking my own, I was shocked when somebody posted that those who take vaccines will die within. I mean, very embarrassing. I mean, we are not in the very embarrassing.
Dr. Mustapha, thank you. Yes, I know, Dr. Kusa, you want to respond.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I will link it to what Kingsley also asked earlier. Why is it that most of the vaccines are towards the viruses?
Right.
When you look at the basic science, the cells in the viruses are very close to the human cells. So when you give drugs, most times they will not just affect the viruses, they will also affect other cells in the body. For instance, when the HIV/AIDS came out initially, some of those drugs that we developed against it, viruses are usually self-limiting. They will just go on their own, will end up attacking the normal cells in the body. For bacteria, there are so many drugs that will just eliminate bacteria. You take the drugs, it will deal with the bacteria easily. With viruses are not like that. They are usually self-limiting in basic science. Now, looking at that, I also join it from this other angle, the fact that it's very common popular saying, prevention is better than cure. I'll pick, for instance, a child that comes down with measles. The stress the mother, the father will pass through, the days this child will be out of school, cannot be compared to the one dose of measles vaccine this child would have taken. Usually, children that are fully vaccinated, even if they are in a class where almost all their classmates come down with measles, you will still see that child bouncing and strong. The worst that will happen for most of them is just like mild fever, transient fever, is all over, the child is still playing. If that child didn't take the vaccination, then you will definitely see the child come down with it. So you discover that the one shot the child would have gotten is far, far more effective than waiting to come down with the disease to be treated. I'll give another example. Somebody that has taken vaccines against tuberculosis at birth, that person will be protected. Let that person now come down in future with tuberculosis. The list of the first treatment is 6 months. Daily injections. Those daily injections that this person will be passing through and the one shot you would have taken as a child, which one is easier? Is the one shot that this person is protected against the complication. We are now looking at the COVID-19 vaccination. Now, the UNICEF country rep talked about it earlier. My colleagues have also talked about the safety of the vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine that we see people are talking about now that is not useful. A study was just concluded in US and was published on the 25th of March on the AstraZeneca. The study was in US, Chile, and Peru. Now, the sample size was about 32,449 persons. They watched this set of people. Of this number, only about 149 of them came down with COVID in the course of the pandemic in US. Out of this 149, not one of them died, and not one of them was hospitalized. But people around them that didn't take the vaccine, a lot came down with it and died. So it showed very well that the success rate was about 94%. And for Nigerians, for those who have had the privilege to see somebody come down with COVID-19, it is until when you go to isolation center, the stress the person passed through on oxygen. Some are lucky after passing through that phase, they still come out alive. Many are not lucky. They don't come out alive when they have opportunity to take just a jab. You know, you asked earlier, what are the vaccines made of? Because the viruses mostly, they don't have drugs that are developed that attack viruses straight. For the vaccines, for most of them, like these viral diseases, like the COVID now, the measles, like King asked earlier, what happened, like the AstraZeneca we are using in Nigeria, is the weakened form of the virus that causes the COVID-19. Is already weakened. It has no effect. So when it is given to an individual, when the person is vaccinated, it's now an antigen in the system. It will now stimulate the production of antibodies in the person's system. Now, once the antibodies are produced, they are there, they are normal part of the system, they are not causing any effect, just it becomes a part of the immunity of the person, because there are two ways of developing immunity. Either naturally you have the immunity from good food, exercise, good rest, and so on. You have a good natural immunity, or you develop it from after being exposed to the disease, or from vaccination, which also further boosters immunity. So when you take the vaccination, what it does is it sensitizes the body to produce antibodies. Anytime the person is now exposed to the real disease, because the person has the antibodies to fight, from the point the foreign body or the virus or bacteria or the virus is entering the system, is being destroyed, is killed. It's like somebody has a premises with 10 soldiers, 10 policemen. Then one armed robber is trying to enter through the gate. Of course, before you know, even the owner will not even be awake because he won't even know what is happening. They will mop up the person and flog him and turn him out of the place. That's what the antibodies does because they are already there in the system. Once the foreign body that would have caused disease come into the person's body, the antibodies attack it and then prevent that person from coming down with the real disease.
So it's not possible that, for instance, anybody who has taken the COVID-19 vaccine, after a long time, that the person may come down with COVID-19. It's not possible.
I just gave example of what happens in this instance is that somebody might pick, for instance, I will take from measles and then we link to the COVID-19. If 100 children are given measles vaccine, 85 of them from the first shot will have outright immunity. There will be 15 of the 100 that will not. If you give them a second dose after 6 months, up to 95%, in other words, additional 10 of them will develop immunity. Now, for these children that have developed immunity, the body has antibodies that can fight the measles virus if it enters their body. That's the advantage that child has. If that child is now exposed to the virus in school or any of the public places, it will not manifest much. It will just seem like a transient mild fever. It will just pass away. In some of them, it won't even manifest. Nothing will happen. For somebody who has taken COVID-19 vaccine, that's the same thing it will do, because once you take the vaccine, it will stimulate the antibodies in you. You have the immunity. Once you are exposed to it, what will happen is, even like I explained, the studies in the US that they just concluded, out of the 32,449, only 149 came down with COVID. But none of them was hospitalized and none of them died.
made a distinction about those who have, for instance, life-threatening, diseases like cancer, who may not, be advised to take the vaccines. Are there exceptions?
Now, we look at it from this angle. One of the criteria for prioritizing people for vaccination is comorbidity. Other diseases that the individual has, for reasons that if they come down with COVID, because they're already not strong, it will be worse in them. Once the person's condition is stable, at the point the person wants, wants vaccination, once the person is stable at the point he wants vaccination, he can take the vaccine, because it will be better for that person than to now have it, develop immunity, and then if for any instance the person is exposed to the COVID-19 virus, it will not be that much manifested in him or her. So it is better, even if the person, asthmatic, HIV/AIDS patient, somebody that we know have cancer but is stable. There are a lot of them that, yes, they have the cancer, but they are very stable, moving about. For such person, it is better if they give their consent, they are vaccinated, because it is not the COVID-19 vaccine that will further deplete, but it will generate antibodies in him or her that can also now protect against the COVID-19. So it's not that it's an absolute contraindication once you have cancer. No, the state of the person is also very important.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Oposon. Let's bring in once again Peter Hawkins. What is the age factor in vaccination? Of course, we are familiar with vaccination for the childhood killer diseases, as they are referred to. But in general, what is the age factor in vaccination?
Well, as Dr. Bassam said, prevention is the best form of cure. So for getting an under 1-year-old child vaccinated, fully vaccinated, allows that child to be able to fight any diseases that they may come across, or if they get it, to be able to have a transient flu and minor symptoms. And for the COVID vaccine, the risk and the efficacy factor for people in Nigeria under the age of 18 would not take the COVID-19 vaccine. It's only for those people 18 and over, because that's where the major risk is, and the major ability to be able to respond to the pandemic is at its fore. So those are the two factors that determine what.
Yeah, thanks. I know that we're talking specifically now because that's the in thing. It's the coronavirus pandemic and any vaccination against it. Since we are discussing vaccines and health interventions in general, I ask this question specifically because we know that there are other forms of vaccines that are available. Vaccine for yellow fever, vaccine for CSM, that's cerebrospinal meningitis, and all kinds of vaccines that people. So that's what I'm asking, what is the age factor? You've already described this. At what point, does the person say, oh, no, I don't need this kind of vaccination or otherwise? Or a medical practitioner will say, okay, you don't need this vaccination because of your age, and then therefore you are stable, and then your immune system is sufficient to ward off any infection that might arise on account of exposure.
One of the most effective vaccines at the moment, pneumococcal for pneumonia, is one of the good examples. As soon as you can take it, you should be able to take it. So as a child, taking it to prevent you from getting pneumonia, prevent you getting measles, or helping you fight the measles when you do get it. So as earlier as possible is the way. So under 1 is the main regime, and then under 5 is the second course of events. Polio is a very, very good example. The younger you are in getting the polio drops, the better it is to prevent you from contracting polio. So it's all about prevention. So as early as possible, then you have it for life. Measles, polio, pneumococcal for pneumonia, and all the other vaccines are an important part of it. There's the cholera vaccine, for example, you need to take periodically. If you were to take on vaccine, it's actually less and less required at the moment. And cholera, only in extreme cases would you vaccinate anybody, not like 15, 20 years ago where we used to have to take it every 6 months and use it for that. So that it's as early as possible to prevent you from contracting any of the viruses.
When we were children, we never had this oral drop or the suspension that they are using now for. It used to be something that looked like an AK-47 that they will give you. They will give you here. They will come. Everybody will be crying anyway, but that's what they will give you. And then, so is there? I know that the suspension is liquid, but is there any property difference between the jab you get, even the COVID-19 one is a syringe, and then the suspension, and then it's you get it there, and then the one that is dropped in the mouth, particularly when you see them doing for children, against polio, and particularly stubborn children. Of course, you have to squeeze their mouth. Dr. Okpos.
You see, there are inventions, and like children, when they are to be vaccinated, most times you just watch the mood of the mother or the caregiver. Some of them don't like seeing their babies cry and so on. So if from the manufacturer they can do anything possible to avoid injection, they will do. And that's why we're beginning to see the drops. There are even strips that are coming in where they will just paste like a paper. There are inventions that are coming out. After about 3 hours, they remove it. The skin would have absorbed it. Those are technologies that are being tried now. And of course, when it comes to use, it will replace the conventional way and of the child crying. And also to contribute, like the UNICEF country rep said earlier, and the question we asked on the age, it's very important. And that's why you see in Nigeria and globally, they advise our children to be fully immunized before each one for so many reasons. There are some of the vaccines that as the child is being delivered, you must give the vaccine within 24 hours of delivery. like the BCG, like the hepatitis B, and then the oral polio vaccine. I'm advising Nigerians, our caregivers, please, once you have a child born in your family, make sure within 24 hours that child is given that vaccination. For simple reason that, you know, in the air is carrying a lot of particles, and these particles are infectious. The baby's immunity is weak. So before those things get at the child, we are giving the vaccination for the child to develop immunity against them. And so, and as we mentioned earlier, naturally as we grow in the environment, we get exposed and then get antibodies and immunity because of the exposure. But not everybody have that privilege to live, acquire the natural immunity, and stay long. Some in the course, because they couldn't fight the disease and they were not vaccinated, they'll die or they get maimed and other things happen. So the age is very, very significant. And within the first 1 year, those antigens, like the UNICEF country mentioned, all of them, including the pentavalent vaccine, the pneumococcal vaccine, we are now giving the IPV to the children. Then at 9 months, we also add the yellow fever. We also add the main A vaccines to them. And then as a country, we have added the second dose of measles at 15 months. Remember before, we were just giving at 9 months. And looking at the science, the fact that when you now give a second dose, it takes up to 95% efficacy. So as a country, once a baby is given at 9 months, the measles is again given at 15 months. Then at that 9 months, the third vaccine you give to the child there is the yellow fever vaccine. If you could watch the pandemics or the deaths that were happening in Delta, Enugu, and Kogi recently, you won't see children younger than, or those youth younger than 20 years. Because we've introduced yellow fever vaccine routinely into the country. Most of them that died were above 20, 25 years, who never had and have never bothered to go back to the hospital for yellow fever vaccination. As a country, when we adopted the yellow fever vaccination as a routine vaccination, you've seen that for the past 2.5 decades, yellow fever has been silenced in that younger age group, which further stresses the importance of vaccination. And again, just to link it to the discussion is the fact that we're advising Nigerians, vaccines are safe. People, when polio vaccines came out, there were a lot of talks that it has to do with infertility. We have children that were vaccinated who are now adults and they have families. They are not infertile, they are producing. When the COVID-19 vaccines came in, a lot of people also started saying, oh, this one also is another way of infertility in the adult. We have some states in the country, the vaccination was delayed for about 3 weeks. I won't mention the states here. They kept the vaccine first, went into the labs, used their most intelligent professors to test the vaccine to be sure. At the end of it, the vaccines were certified safe. They don't have infertility product. Our president, our vice president, our minister of health, Dr. Henry, executive director, NPPC, Dr. Faisal, the PTF chair and the secretary of government, Mr. Mustapha, all the PTF members, our ministers, finance and the rest, everybody have demonstrated to Nigerians publicly taking the vaccines. Okay. Because they are sure of the vaccines, but you still see Nigerians being skeptical. Yes. And I want to thank our leaders for being examples.
We will look at the reason, really, why, vaccine, there's this skepticism about vaccine, because it didn't start from today. In our conversation when we started this program, we started an example with Benjamin Franklin, whose son died, from smallpox. And the story was that it was because his son had, inoculation. He took the smallpox, vaccination. But of course, he came out to say, no, it was not because he took it, that he even regretted not giving him the vaccination, So rejection has started as far back as the 18th century. But my next question is general, but I would like to start with Dr. Kazeem Mustapha, because for childhood killer diseases, measles, diphtheria, all those stuff, the child has to have a couple of doses of those specific vaccines. But regardless, we've had a number of incidents, of children coming down with smallpox, measles, and even until recently, polio. So what is the specific goal of vaccine or vaccination? Is it to eliminate, eradicate? What is it? What is it set out? What does it set out to do, really?
Thank you very much. The specific goal is to prevent. The specific goal is to prevent. And that is why exposure to vaccines as early as possible in life will go a long way to do that. So it depends on if we want to, we can, if our culture, if we are able to get as many children as possible or as many people within the community to get vaccines for especially childhood killer diseases, it is very good for us, because the more the number of people within the population that have vaccines, the more protected the entire community can be. We have what we call the herd immunity, in which case, just like Dr. Bassi said, if you take vaccines, you are protected. But if a large number of people take the vaccine, especially in easily transmissible diseases, you have a situation where even the few ones that have not taken are indirectly protected. And that is why the drive is to make sure that we change people's belief and perception towards vaccination. There's no way you will not still see people who will still maintain their negative stance against vaccination. But in a situation where you already convince a lot of people to take vaccines, you can protect them indirectly. Now, you can see that the whole essence of our coming here is to convince Nigerians to take the vaccines. And that is why the last week of April has been set aside. I think what we need to continue to do is to let this conversation, let this information and education about vaccines continue. Just like we are using the opportunity of this World Vaccination Week to inform and sensitize people more and put the discussion on vaccination on national agenda. We should not wait until we have this, we are marking any special time. We should make sure that we keep on to inform people. That is the only way we can get as many people as possible to be vaccinated, and indirectly even those that are resisting may not come down with the disease eventually. It is a lot of work. Vaccine prevents. Vaccine prevents. The only way it can indirectly seems to have eradicated, seems to eradicate any form. Just take polio, for instance. We are certified polio-free in the country. It's because we've gotten to a level that, quite a reasonable number, majority of our children are already vaccinated, and even those that are not vaccinated to a very large extent are indirectly protected. Vaccine essentially is for prevention, but you can eradicate, you can eliminate that pathogens within your community if your health system is well strengthened and you are able to get that culture of vaccination of children as they are being born, to become very top-notch. So, but essentially, vaccine will prevent.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Mustapha. Peter Hawkins, we were talking about the efficacy of vaccines or the roles of vaccines. We do know, for instance, I know you're not from WHO, but in 1980, WHO declared smallpox eradicated around the world. That's the so-called naturally occurring smallpox. Of course, some labs were perhaps for weaponizing purposes. They may still have that. But in general, since UNICEF is also actively involved in vaccination programs in the country, what's been your reading of the public response to vaccination? We had a good outcome with regard to the elimination of wild polio virus. But for other forms of vaccination, what has been the experience of UNICEF in dealing with various governments, because we have 3, federal, states, and local, and the public?
No, and I think there's a good story to tell here in Nigeria, not only over the past 20 years, the experience that we've all had on the wild polio vaccine and eradicating that, and it's a good story. You've mentioned smallpox, that's eradicated. Polio now, it's only in 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, in the world, and Nigeria has led the way in that sense and shown to Pakistan and Afghanistan that what can be done. In terms of immunization as a whole, it has been difficult in the past. But I think since the 90s, it's slowly coming to the fore. And I think when we look at the figures in 2016, 17, 18, and 19, incrementally routine immunization has increased. And it's a very, very good story. It's not where we want it to be, but it has got much, much better. In 2020, it's significant to note that while there was a very small dip in May 2020, it actually came back up. It's not quite at the same levels, but that incremental step will take place. But what was fantastic in 2020, and this refers to the issue of the government, that the government continued to bring in routine immunization vaccine during the lockdown so that there would not be a stock out, and routine immunization has taken place. Dr. Bassi and his team have been incredible in ensuring that routine immunization, despite the pandemic, is there at the fore of what the government wants to do. Going down to various levels of government, the state governments are doing well, some doing better than others, but every month we look at the figures to see which state needs to pick up, which state needs to drop off. One of the most significant areas that we're all grappling with is the human resources at primary healthcare level. And that is the one area that we need to really work on. It's the responsibility of state to ensure that there is a full capacity minimum standards and with 1 PHC per ward and a fully serviced. But that's something that over the next 3 or 4 years that we need to and can be addressed, because the human capital in Nigeria exists. It's about the commitment and accountability to ensure that is there at ward level or PHC level. Now we have the COVID vaccine. 3.924 million doses came. As Dr. Bassi said, over 1.5 million people have already been vaccinated. That's a testament not only to the system, but to the people themselves. And I would encourage, like you have all said, encourage people to go out and get vaccinated. This is about prevention. Don't wait until people in your family have been affected by COVID. Go out and prevent yourself and your family from getting COVID by being vaccinated now, and then the second dose in 8 weeks' time, to ensure that you are protected in one form or another. So there's a good story to be told, but many challenges ahead that we need to address.
That sounds very interesting, and I'm sure Dr. Kusang is glad to hear that as well. We're very glad. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Gentlemen, let's just go for a short break. We'll come back shortly.
Contemporary times require practical skills to remain competitive and relevant in your organization. Therefore, take advantage of NTA TV College short proficiency courses to sharpen your professional skills. Basic Broadcast Accounting and Auditing. Date 19th April to 30th April 2021. 2 weeks. Audio Engineering, Operations and Maintenance. Date 19th April to 23rd April 2021. 1 week. Protocol, Event Management and Public Relations. Date 3rd May to 14th May 2021. 2 weeks. Intermediate Camera Operation Techniques. Date 17th May to 11th June 2021. 4 weeks. The course fee for the 4-week course is 100,000 naira per participant. The fee for the 2-week course is 80,000 naira, while the course fee for the 1-week course is 40,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue for all the courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA. Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Right, welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're looking at vaccine and other health interventions. We have all our guests seated here. We do appreciate them. We also appreciate your tweets that you have sent in. But just before we take on the tweets, there was a question I had asked off camera to the gentleman here in the studio. And I'll start with Dr. Pusen, who is, of course, from the National Primary Health Care Development Agency. For a long time, we've heard our immunization coverage, reach at 70%, whereas some members of even our own partner countries, the D8 countries, have achieved much higher targets. Are we having to deal with reluctance from the people, or is it a government thing?
Okay, I will put it this way, and something that answer with appreciation to the government of the day for wanting to see the reality. Before now, you're talking of 70%. We're always reporting 1995, 102% immunization coverage. With the current executive director, we have Dr. Faisal, and then the minister, who was Minister of State then, and the president, His Excellency President. When the mixed NICS result was released in 2016, early 2017, and it showed that Nigeria was 33%. 33%. We, in the program team, initially were trying to say, no, that is survey, because we were not giving attention to survey in the past. We're always reporting the 90 and above percentage. The executive director and the entire team and our partners, UNICEF, WHO, who supported this decision, said, as a country, this is where we are, 33%. Let's find a solution to this problem. That was when the government set aside and said, administrative report, we are not going to entertain it. Let's go on the survey. Let's find out what the problems are. So the government, with all our partners, sat down for a period of about 3 months to dissect, to know exactly what is wrong in the routine immunization system of the country. It was at the end of it, under the leadership of Executive Director Dr. Faisal, the National Emergency Routine Immunization Coordination Center was established. That was specifically created to ensure that routine immunization in the country works. Since the day it was inaugurated on the 4th of July 2017, the NERIC Center, till today, that team meets every day except few public holidays. We have from the government, we have from the partners, the country revenue itself here will also bear witness. They meet every day to review what is going on at the state level. Now, having the structure at the national was not enough. It was stepped down to the state level to have the state emergency routine immunization coordination centers, especially in the 18 states that were poorest performing. They were given the first attention to also establish that structure. Then the same at the local government level. They were given at least bi-monthly visits from the national, both government and partners. We'll go together, sit with them for a period of 2 weeks, and then analyzing their report and preferring solutions.
What's the outcome?
And then the outcome of it is that from that 2016, 2017 mixed NICS, the smart survey we had last year gave us 70%. For the first time, Nigeria had such a coverage. And remember, the survey is not conducted by NPPC, it's not conducted by, it's jointly conducted by all our partners with our NBS and the lead. Of course, we know what the NBS will do. They will always go straight and tell us the truth, what it is. Working with UNICEF, working with WHO, all our partners that are involved. It gave us 70% as a country. And for us, and we are not wanting to stop there. For last year, we were saying we will move from the 70% to at least 80%. Even with the pandemic, there was a guideline that came out. The country reviews will bear witness that there should be no outreaches, there should be no this, there should be no that. Under the leadership of our ED, our minister, and all our partners, we say we will not stop. There was an immediate training for about 220 health workers, 66,000 community members. A guideline was released. After the training and the provision of PPEs to the health workers, they were able to come back and start work immediately. March, April, we could see the routine immunization went down. But from May, we could see it started coming up very well. So now we just conducted LQAS, Blood Quality Assurance Survey, which was done by NBS and WHO. It has shown that the country, in fact, most people are amazed. So there's this level of work that is still going on in the country. That's why I'm so appreciative to Mr. President, the Vice, the Minister, the ED of the agency, the finance minister, who have always made it possible for this vaccine to be available. In the midst of pandemic, like the country rep UNICEF said, they were hiring flights to bring in vaccines.
I like the country rep. Is that a realistic survey?
Absolutely, and it gives you an indication and progress. And later this year, we'll be doing the mix in October, November of this year. And I'm sure that will show and give us a good comparison from 2016 to 2021 that we're at. But and there are other significant factors, as our wonderful colleague Dr. Kofi earlier alluded to in the broadcast, that the zero-dose children have been reduced from 4.2 down to 3.1 million. That is still a challenge, yeah, but at least it's going in the right direction and the trajectory is going in the right direction. The more you can reduce the zero-dose population, the better you will get to the herd immunity and the quicker you'll get to the situation that you're alluding to of 90+%. And all the steps are in place to do that. And the sort of positive narrative, vaccines bring you closer, vaccine saves lives, vaccine prevents diseases, all of these sort of things brings you back to the stage where our colleague here was talking about, in the 80s, where in the Ramsam Kuti period, that really it was automatic. People that went to the primary healthcare clinic to do the AK-47 and all the rest of it.
No, AK-47 was in the 60s.
The 60s.
Yes, for us, not...
But
No, but Ramsam Kuti was an acknowledged driver of
absolutely,
yes.
And we're back there again. This drive that now is taking place, year on year, 17, 18, 19, the increase in the figures. Let's just continue that, reduce the zero-dose number of children down to the minimum, because that's where the big impact will have, and ensure that it's routine immunization rather than campaigns, as Dr. Bassi has said. It's the routine immunization, so children are born, automatically go to the clinic, get vaccinated, and protected for the rest of their lives.
To what extent does the level of illiteracy impact on the willingness of parents or relatives to send their children for immunization? Because if we still complain about levels of illiteracy, you have to be enlightened to know these values. And is the focus more on urban areas, or it's a combination of urban and rural areas? Because we know we have a sense of what the disparities are in terms of education, quality of life, and just human development. What's been your experience?
I mean, there's no question there's a divide between rural and urban areas, and it's the equitable distribution of immunization which is critical, and that's why we talk about reducing the zero-dose number of children. And in the rural areas, as I was alluding to earlier, the primary healthcare centres are less populated, less robust, less with skilled staff. And that's the challenge, I think, at state level and local government and then ward level that Nigeria has. It's about the consistency in the number of staff that are there and the training of that staff at primary healthcare centres to ensure that wherever you are in the country, you have a minimum standard of delivery.
Okay. Again, Dr. Mustapha, is there, within the context of our conversation, is there any lesson that we could, draw from the recent happenings in India with regards to access to vaccine and the increase and the second wave, or is it third wave now of COVID-19 in that country?
Yeah, I think what is happening in India and to some extent in Brazil is a lesson to us here. It's like we are letting down our guard. I traveled to the southern part of the country recently, and I was amazed. A lot of people in gatherings and public places are not even wearing their mask. They are behaving as if COVID-19 has been done with and gone. What is happening in India is a clear example of what will happen anywhere if we don't observe those protocols. So we should not. Now, how many Nigerians? I think the total number of people who have taken vaccine in the country is barely more than 1 million, whatever. So we still have a large gap. And I think the third wave, even fourth wave is possible if we are careless. And I want to advise that the most important protocol, the most important preventive protocol is to keep to the rules of observing social distance and wearing a mask. We need to do a lot of awareness. We need to do a lot of sensitization. We need to be engaging people. In rural communities, I think one of the reasons that has gotten us to the significant improvement in immunization coverage is community dialogue. Because I want to commend the National Primary Health Care for the idea of NERIC, CERIC, and the local government. So we should, whatever we are doing, include much more community dialogue and sensitization so that people will know, because we appear to be a bit lucky here in Africa, in Nigeria, we should not throw caution into the wind. I was amazed. A lot of people in India are sovereign. We have, Rotary is very international. We have a lot of our friends, super elites, cut across everywhere. They're coming down with the COVID infection. So we should not take the safety protocol for granted. In fact, this is the time to start to promote and sensitize people much more. It is not over until it is over.
Thank you, Dr. Mustapha. I thought as much that India should be a reference point when we want to talk about the efficacy and importance of vaccine. They've run out of vaccine, and there's a greater demand for the COVID-19 vaccines in that country at the moment. So I think it's a reference point. People should look at what is happening in India to know the importance.
The corollary to that will be, how does that affect our supply of AstraZeneca?
Yeah.
How does it affect our supply?
Yes. How does this problem in India
right now
affect us? Okay. The AstraZeneca vaccine, the main manufacturer is the Oxford University in the UK. Now, India, the Serum Institute of India, is the biggest vaccine manufacturing industry in the world. They have authorization from the Oxford University to produce the AstraZeneca using their plants, so that the same quality what you see in Oxford University is what you see from Serum Institute. As at 1 week ago, about 20 million doses had come out from, people have been vaccinated with the AstraZeneca from Oxford University, while about 27.4 were vaccinated with that which came out from the Serum Institute of India. The difference between the two vaccines that will only make you know, the quality is the same. The one from Oxford is AstraZeneca. The one from Serum Institute is Covishield. And that is the one that is coming also to Nigeria. Now, because of the situation in India, for instance, Nigeria was supposed to receive about 12.9 million doses before the first half of April. We can't, not only Nigeria, most other countries that were to be supplied with the vaccine from India have not, because they want to deal with their local situation. Yesterday, we had about 200,000 cases in 1 day of COVID-19 in India. So the citizens...
Does that affect the second shot, those who have taken the first shot?
No. For what the leadership of the agency has done with working with all our partners was that the ones we received, the ED had directed working with the state, giving 50% of the vaccines to be used. So there's a second 50% that will be used for the second dose. There are countries like Ghana who did not take that step. Immediately they got their 600,000, they used to vaccinate anybody. Now they don't know when the second dose will come to be used. But for Nigeria, the vaccines for the second dose is intact.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Oposan and the other guests. There are tweets that have come in from our viewers. We'll quickly go through them now and then wrap up the conversation segment. Erote Wesley. Vaccines and medical interventions have drastically reduced infectious diseases all around the world, and it's paramount, therefore, for people to get vaccinated. My question, however, is when will Africa in general discover something peculiar like vaccines so that other countries will depend on them?
Soon. Festus Akibewa.
Medical researcher.
I'm only being optimistic. All right, Festus Akibewa, I'll just abridge your tweet for time. It's heartwarming to hear there's now a vaccine for malaria, which will save thousands of lives. Nigeria must invest in scientific and technical research to develop vaccines.
Now, Titus Mondenong says, we're talking about this a while ago, says the current surge of COVID-19 and its variants in India tell us how important vaccination is. Today, they are struggling to get vaccines from other countries, while some people in Nigeria are just reluctant, so go for the vaccine.
Okay, Dele Jack Solomon has a tweet. It says, also, misinformation around vaccination adds to the threat, and we must ensure that Nigerian children receive routine vaccinations. That's what he says.
Utulo Sunday said the goal of public health is to prevent disease. It's much easier and cost-effective to prevent than to treat it. That's exactly the essence of immunization.
And Multana Farouk, you commend the international organizations for their global initiatives to provide vaccines and other medical interventions. However, nothing better strengthens the immune system of organisms than the natural food. Okay, let's feed the world, he says.
Festus Akiboyewa, vaccination is the most important thing we can do to protect ourselves and our children from deadly diseases. Vaccines have helped to get rid of smallpox, polio, and tetanus. Sadly, Nigeria is not investing meaningfully in the development of vaccines. Why?
Okay, again, this one is a second tweet from Dele Jack Solomon. This is 2021 World Immunization Week, tagged "Vaccines Bring Us Closer to Increased Engagement and Awareness on Immunization and to Promote the Importance of Vaccination in Bringing Nigerians Together while improving the health and well-being of everyone, everywhere, throughout life."
Mike Ayakwa, the big question is, should Nigeria as a country always depend on others for the procurement of vaccines? What are our scientists doing? Where have we got it wrong? What should be done henceforth?
Well, no man is an island.
We're going to ask you this question at some other time in the future.
No, even now,
all right.
there are answers.
We are pressed for time.
We're pressed for time.
Yes. We're pressed for time. But unless you can proceed your response in 15 seconds, can you do that?
There's some work already going on. In Lagos, there are already 3 scientists, and they are having the support from the Federal Ministry of Health and the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology. And this has also been backed with funding from the government. The government is interested in those researches that are on the COVID-19 vaccine and also refertilizing the plants at Lagos to ensure that we resume vaccine production. There are also collaborations with others to bring in technology into the country.
Dr. Mustapha, briefly, also in 15 seconds, how can we dispel all the rumors surrounding vaccination? What do we do?
I think we should up our ante in engagement, sensitization, information, especially the media has a lot of role to play. Please, let's increase the awareness, the information out there. And then we should use the structure of NERIC, CERIC, and LERIC to make sure we engage rural communities in community dialogue to sensitize
Thank you.
people.
Mr. Hawkins?
Stay safe. Vaccines brings us closer, but it also saves lives. Vaccinate your children, and if you can, vaccinate yourself against COVID. Stay safe.
All right, thank you very much. On that note, we'd like to appreciate our 3 guests who have been with us this morning in our conversation segment. Peter Hawkins, UNICEF country rep in Nigeria. Thanks for being around.
Thank you.
Dr. Basi Oposan is Director, Disease Control and Immunization at the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Thank you for being around.
Thank you.
And lastly, Dr. Kazeem Mustapha, Vice Chair of the Nigeria National Polio Plus Committee of Rotary International. Thank you for being around.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so that's it, and good morning, Nigeria, for today, and indeed for the week. The program returns on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, take care of yourself and enjoy your weekend. Monday is a public holiday, by the way, but we're back on air. I'm Kingsley Osadolo, and then happy Workers' Day tomorrow.
Indeed, happy Workers' Day to all Nigerian workers. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Don't forget to always stand with NTA and campaign against rape and rapists. Bye-bye from all of us.